All right, folks, here we go. Lesson 1, rational numbers. This first one's on converting fractions to decimals to percents. So a ratio is defined as the comparison of a size of a number to the size of the other number. And in this first example, we're going to deal with a 100 grid. So this grid is 10 by 10, which means that there is 100 squares there. Okay, and each row and each column is 10. So the first thing we're going to do is write the number of shaded squares compared to the total number of squares as a fraction. So there's 10 in this column, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 16 shaded out of 100 in total. Now a decimal, you're going to take the top and divide it by the bottom. And so you're going to get 0.16. And a percent, well, percent quite literally means out of 100. So this is already out of 100, so I know that this is 16%. A quick way to go from any decimal to percent is to multiply by 100. And any percent to decimal, you divide by 100. So this is key information here, and you should hopefully recognize this. If not, that's all right. So if we're going decimal to percent, multiply by 100. So 0.34 multiplied by 100, you're going to get 34%. Same thing here. If you multiply this by 100, you're going to get 46.5%. And this one, if you multiply by 100, you get 367%. Now, if we look at the decimal a little bit closer, we'll just revisit this one. This 4 is in the hundredths column. Okay, so this is out of 100. And like we said, percent means out of 100. So 34 out of 100 is 34%. Same thing with our next decimal there. This is where the hundredths column is. Okay, so that would be 46.5 out of 100, so 46.5%. And our last one, this is 367 out of 100, so 367%. Now, if we're going from percent to decimal, you're going to divide by 100. Now, percent, remember, means out of 100. So this is going to be 0.74. 325%, if you divide by 100, you get 3.25. And the last one, if you divide by 100, you're going to get 0.045. Now, if we want to go from a decimal to fraction, I kind of talked about it on the last page. So read the decimal and reduce the resulting fraction. So this first one here is, you have to look at the column. All right. Now that's in the tenths column. So if we write this as a fraction, that's going to be 2 out of 10. And we can reduce that. It becomes 1 over 5. You have to ask yourself, what column is that in? It's in the hundredths column, so that's going to be 45 out of 100, and if we reduce that, we're going to get 9/20. Same thing here. The last decimal is in the hundredths column, so this is 216 out of 100, which if we reduce that down, you're going to get 54 over 25. Now, I won't go on about reducing fractions, reducing any number. There's lots of videos, and maybe I'll link a video on the lesson as well to somebody else explaining reducing fractions. Okay, percent means out of 100. So 60%, 60 out of 100. And if we reduce that fraction, we get 3/5. 12% means 12 out of 100. And so if we reduce that, we're going to get 3 out of 25. And our last one, 275%. Percent means out of 100. And if we reduce that, we get 11 over 4. Now this little information here is going to be helpful to you, hopefully, when you work through the homework. So fraction to decimal, you're going to divide the numerator by the denominator, or, if possible, rewrite the fraction with a denominator of 100. So the first thing we're going to do here is go 2 divided by 5. And in that case, we get 0.4. Then look at which column that's in. It's in the tenths column, so that's 4. We're going to a percent. Sorry, we're not going back to a fraction. Going to percent, so multiply by 100, and that's 40%. 3 over 4, you can go 3 divided by 4, and you get 0.75. And then multiply by 100, and you get 75%. First of all, if it's a mixed fraction, you got to change that to improper. So that is 15 over 8. And then do 15 divided by 8, and you get 1.875. And if you multiply that by 100, you get 187.5%. And that's the end of lesson 1.